many fans.
Yes.
Nick, you're the number one, I think.
Uh, I did try very hard to get people to come.
Good.
We were working it pretty hard.
Toronto. I think somebody else is in the Netherlands, or just no, they're writing in Dutch anyway.
Other people from the Netherlands as well?
Well, I saw it in something in Dutch.
Okay.
Came by.
Oh yeah, I think that's what.
And Cynthia Anderson's already talked about having finished your book this morning.
Oh wow.
Sachi is my friend in the UK.
Okay.
I see some of my students here. Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. How nice.
Queen Anne Hill. I'm in West Seattle, so that's like a foreign. There's another Dutch. Oh, everything.
Yes, I see a Dutch person.
Yes.
He's wishing us a good Zoom conversation.
Yes, the Zoom part I got. Yes. Okay, I think at this point we still have some people to come in, but I think given a couple of factors, including what time it is for many people who are here, including Tofik, we should begin. So I will say, my name is Rick Simonson, and my colleague Karen and I are with the Elliott Bay Book Company in Seattle. And on behalf of us and all our colleagues, we welcome you, whatever time it is where you are, since we are spanning several time zones here, both just in the people who are involved in this alone, let alone where all of you are coming from, in having Tofik Dibi here on the occasion of the U.S. translation, the U.S. publication and the translation of his extraordinary memoir, Djinn, which has just now been published here in English in the U.S. And today, so this is a celebratory occasion. And where I am, it's probably more coffee and tea libation, but where Tofik is, it could be something else. Part of the celebratory nature of this is that the translator, University of Washington professor Nick Barr, is part of this conversation. And the other part of this will be Anu Taranath. Well, I'll say more about Nick and Anu in a moment, but they're here in Seattle at both professors at University of Washington. So we have Seattle, we have Amsterdam, and we have all of you, all the places you are. This book that has just been published here in the US that Tofik Dibi wrote, first was published in 2015 in Dutch, and was a book that made an incredible impact as a coming of age account of being Muslim, coming of age, well, I'll say included being young, but in that, but queer and Muslim. And it's in a country that, a city at least, that you would profess to be liberal, but much of what happened with him around the publication of the book was not so friendly. And it's also, it's had its own impact elsewhere in the world too, by its being published and the story coming out. So today will be a chance for him to read from and talk about this book, which I think will have a significant impact here in the United States as well. Tofik is also, he's actually a writer, a playwright, and he has a more recent book. We were talking about this before you came in, Tofik, a book published this last year, Het Monster van Wokeness that was published. That's probably not quite the pronunciation, but you can.
Yeah, the Wokeness Monster. It's like a play on the Loch Ness the Loch Ness Monster.
Kind of saw that in there, and maybe that'll
Mhm.
get talked about, even though I don't think any of us have had a chance to know more of the particulars of that. But and he's also certainly been known and celebrated as a political figure in the Netherlands. At age 26, he was elected to Dutch Parliament as a member of the GreenLinks party, and
Yes.
served there for 6 years, and therefore was in the middle of a lot of other issues and all activities. So he will, there's many things that has going and had going. For Nicolaas Barr, who is the director of study abroad and a professor at the Comparative History of Ideas at the University of Washington, this is a first for him in having a published translation. So we're excited about that. And Anu Tarnath, who you'll see in her role and help moderate this, a role she's been very adept at over the years. We've seen her do so in a number of programs and other settings. But we also got to see her, it now seems like years ago, but it was actually 2019, as the author of her own book, a remarkable book drawn from her years of taking student groups around the world to particular countries and places. And that book, Beyond Guilt Trips, Mindful Travel in an Unequal World, is a book that received a number of awards and honors and finalist nominations. And Anu also has received a lot of awards for her teaching, which presently I think she's split between the Department of English and the Comparative History of Ideas program at the University of Washington. She and Nick are both teaching this term, and so they're used to this world now of Zoom, and I know some students are in here as well. So this program will include Tofik doing some reading. It'll include Nick and Anu being part of the conversation then about the book, about its translation and its place in the world. And you are invited to put questions in either the Q&A window or the chat. And Anu, I think, will work those in later on in this program. My colleague Karen will also be, she has probably already done it, have put links, yeah, she has, but given all the conversation going on in the chat, we'll put it in again. Links to both Tofik's book and its translation, but also Anu's as well. And both books are carried at Elliott Bay and will be for the long haul. And we're excited that this can happen. Only wishing it could be in person. That's for someday. So for all of us again at Elliott Bay, we are thrilled and honored to be able to help do this at this debut. And now ask you to please give your good worldwide attention in various languages. I'm doing this all in English. We've had Dutch readers and speakers here, among others, to welcome Tofik Dibi, Nick Barr, and Anu Tarnath. You three, take it away. I think it's Anu. I think Anu is going to take this now over and enjoy this all, and I'll be back at the very end. So thank you all.
Hey there, thank you so much for joining us. Nick is actually starting us off today.
Thank you so much, Rick. So I wanted to start with a land acknowledgement, because even though this event is virtual, many of us live and work in Seattle, as you can see from my virtual background. And so we would like to acknowledge that we're on the occupied homelands of the Coast Salish peoples, the land which touches the shared waters of all tribes and bands within the Duwamish, Puyallup, Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. We're so grateful to Elliott Bay Books for hosting the special event. Having grown up in Seattle myself, it's an honor for me to present this book at this institution. All books are really collaborations, and I want to thank the team at SUNY Press, including Jen Bennett-Genthner, Kate Sebudayamo, and especially our editor, Dr. Rebecca Colesworthy, who embraced this project with such enthusiasm, care, and expertise. It's thanks to Rebecca's vision that this translation found its home. Thank you also to Professor Cynthia Barak and Professor Jill J. Josephson for including the book in their distinguished Queer Politics and Cultures series. I especially want to thank my amazing partner, Nara Hohenze, who not only supported me through every up and down of this project, but also left a mark on every page with her talented ear and eye. My staff and faculty colleagues at the University of Washington, particularly the Comparative History of Ideas department, have also done so much to support this work. And finally, my parents, David and Corey Barr, supported me through thick and thin. And it's been such a joy to reconnect further to my lost Muttertal, or mother tongue, together with my mom through this project. And for that, I'm profoundly grateful to Tofik for writing this book and for trusting me as a first-time translator. It's been far more than a professional project, and it's hard to describe the feeling of finding something of myself through the story you've so bravely told. Just hartelijk dank, Tofik. As a way, as a way of further introducing my fellow guests and starting the conversation, I'll just share that Tofik and I have only met in person twice, briefly, as part of my study abroad program to Amsterdam in 2017 and 2019, talking to UW students about his writing and political work in the Netherlands. Dr. Anu is a wonderful friend and colleague of mine at UW, and it's been an honor to work with her on her incredible study abroad programs to Bangalore, India, Ghana, and Mexico City, the last of which focuses on LGBTQ activism. Her book, which Rick mentioned, Beyond Guilt Trips, is such a beautiful model for the work we do and for anyone who travels. And I had the privilege of introducing her book at LA Bay Books back in 2019. So these two, Tofik and Anu, are some of the fiercest people I know, and I'm so happy for them to meet, even if it can't be in person yet. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Anu.
That's a beautiful introduction, Nick. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. What a wonderful occasion to celebrate this memoir's worldwide debut in English today. Thank you. Tofik, I so appreciate your work. I have really been thinking about your memoir for the last few days, partly in preparation for today, but because it's one of those books that when you read it, the spirits of the book move in you. The spirits that you yourself are navigating, they move through you as a reader. And so I really want to appreciate just at the outset, the fact that you've written this and Nick, your translation of it. So I'm just really so pleased to be a part of this event and to, introduce this memoir to you all, and also to kind of give a sense of some of its nuances, some of the wider politics that it's really grappling with. I'd like to just share with our participants today how the memoir begins. The most terrifying monsters are monsters that you never see, not even for a fraction of a second. They are whispered about, and you know that they're there, but they remain invisible. Even more terrifying is when the monster is not only formless, but also voiceless. Then no one knows what it is and what it wants, and the image of the monster becomes even more grotesque. You begin in that way, and very soon after, you introduce to us two words that form the backbone for so much of this memoir, the word it and the word them, they. Let me just read 2-3 lines of that, please.
Okay.
There they are. As soon as it does something, they attack. If it goes wrong, they are merciless. They are proven right again. Wherever it is, they are. They also accompany me everywhere. It and they have been at war for a long time. It is alone. They are many. I'm so compelled by that, that image, and the way that you've woven those ideas throughout the memoir. Can you share with us a little bit the it and the they and how they really feature as characters in this memoir for you, no?
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I mean, I can go on with like just being grateful to Nick and everybody at SUNY Press and at Elliott Bay for like this magical experience because it really is magical. I thought the book would be the end of me, like talking about this issue. I thought it would be like the end of my life, and it's the total opposite. Like it opened so many like new just new doors for me and new ways of looking at myself and at the world. The it and the they, I'm from Moroccan heritage, so we in the Arab language, the Moroccan Arab language, we don't have a word for homosexuality. So there isn't a word that makes it that made it always even more um, scary for me. Like if it doesn't have a word, like nobody is supposed to talk about it. Nobody is supposed to deal with it. So the it was how I was brought up. That part of you is a sin and you cannot speak about it. And even if you compare it to like other sins that we as Muslims consider like sins, like drinking alcohol or eating pork or like a lot, um, this one was always the worst. So you could do all kinds of stuff. You could steal, you could like curse, you could do whatever, but this one was a no-go area. So that's why I decided in the memoir to call it it, because it was always something that was so suppressed. Um, and they are the ones that teached me that it was wrong, that it was something you wasn't supposed to talk about. So for me, they were the people I internalized. So my family, the imams, the boys on the block that I grew up with, but also films, Hollywood films I watched, and I listened in that period of my life. I listened to a lot of pop music, R&B music, hip hop music. Like everywhere I looked, this was looked down upon. It was dirty. It was a sin. Whatever. So I internalized those voices. So whenever I felt like um, I had feelings for boys, or I was like just looking at a cute boy and I was like, oh my God, what is this? What am I feeling? Then immediately the voices of those people um, like started to battle inside like it was like an inner battle between it and they constantly. That's why I wanted to like really I use those words like a lot in the book, as you in the memoirs, and it's to like um, illustrate how much of this was an internal it was all because it wasn't like a conversation I had with other people. It always stayed in my head, and it made it even like worse.
Yeah. You know, what strikes me as I hear you is that these inner battles, inner terrain of our lives in so many ways are also so inadvertently reflected by the public terrain and the public debates that are happening, right?
Yeah.
You see that very specifically toward the end of the memoir, where you detail some of your political life and some of the conversations that you are very conscientiously having. But even in the first part of the memoir, the various voices, the homophobic voices, the extremist voices, the anti-immigration voices, the racist voices, all of that is pressing upon society. All of that is pressing upon you as well. And
Yeah.
that move also between the it and the they and the inner and the outer, the memoir is really grappling with that in a very honest way. You say in the middle somewhere, it's crowded inside me, the Netherlands, Morocco, Islam, it, and them. They're elbowing each other, stepping on each other's feet, pointing the finger at each other. It's hard to keep them away from each other or to bring them together.
Yeah, yeah, it's like I really wanted to make clear that this is something that that wasn't there from when I was born. So they teached me that it was wrong. So it's something that was external, and because I heard it in so many different places, it became a part of me. And so like one of my first memories was I was at a like we have like Moroccan weddings are like really like a big thing, and you have like a lot of times you have like a male part like the women and the men are like separated and they have like their own, and I was the one that was always sitting with the women
Mhm.
and I was like dancing. So at first they were like, okay, he's dancing, he can kind of dance. So they were like, that's cute. And then they were like, okay, he's dancing a little too much right now with the women. So go away. Like they would be like, go away, Tofik, go to the men. So all of those experiences became a part of me, and they became voices in my head. And add to that, like a political debate about Muslims, where they were like, one of the main criticism about Muslims was they were anti the freedoms that we had in the Netherlands, and one of those freedoms was like the freedom to be like whatever you wanted to be sexually. So it was like, oh wow, so I'm a queer Muslim, and they used homosexuality against me.
Mm-hmm.
So it made it even more difficult to like find a way to talk about this.
Mm-hmm. The very place of immigrants in the Netherlands is often seen as kind of very distinctive, very outside of the fabric of the norm. This is true all over the world in different ways, right? We see these dynamics playing out certainly in the United States and all over, right?
Yeah.
But the kind of battling that this memoir takes us through is extreme, you know, the extreme right on the one hand, and also Islamicists on the other hand. And so trying to figure out a space in the middle where you can flourish and have integrity feels like a really slim place, a really
Yeah,
small
it's like,
place to land.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. You have to like really like navigate it and be extremely careful, because even without the extremists, you have always people like the more moderate people that will be um, like you will have Muslims that'll be like, oh, they only like him because he's a queer Muslim. Because you know, there's a checklist for immigrants and children of immigrants. You have to be like uh, pro LGBT rights. So that's one of the boxes. So and at the other hand, they will be like, he's queer, like the Dutch people, the white Dutch people, they would be like, he's queer, so that makes him, we check one box, so it makes him more acceptable, but he doesn't want to leave his faith.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's of no use to us. So that's like, you're right, it's a really like slim way to navigate. And what can I say? Yeah, it. Uh, I was. It's like, it's funny because I was really waiting for somebody else to do it, because you know how somebody can go before you and you can like learn from their experience, but also missteps. So for years I was like, oh, please let some Moroccan or Muslim guy come out, and then maybe after that I will see like an opening, because the Moroccan and Muslim gay queer men I saw in chat rooms that I was chatting with, they all had like a messed up life. They were either addicted, depressed, suicidal, they were married and leading double lives, they were like escort boys or dealing drugs. So it was like my like what I saw from the ones that were like they were like, oh my God, I don't want that. Like it was something that was scary to me. So I was waiting for somebody to show me how it can be done in a healthy way and you can still be happy as a queer Muslim. And it just didn't happen. So there came like a breaking point, and I was like, okay.
You were the one that had to do that.
I'm gonna do it. That's what I decided. Yeah.
You know, Tofik, so much of this memoir is a meditation, certainly on that very slim place to be. It's also a meditation on what it means to imagine oneself an inconvenience to the norms that are outside, and the toll that that takes on us on so many levels, right?
Exactly. Yes.
It's also an imaginative journey of what happens if they know me. What would happen if all these lives, you say in the book, I've got a private life, I've got a public life, and we always have a secret life. And what happens if those three lives actually merge together? What would happen? And we don't know what happens here. The memoir is a meditation on that process, right?
Yeah.
When your memoir did come out in 2015, what did happen? How did it land?
Well, like I think the most curious I was like, of course, my family and like my community, like my Muslim Moroccan community. That was the part that I was most scared about, so most stressed about. And like to my surprise, it really wasn't that bad. Like everything I imagined in my head like was like a lot worse. So yes, I get cursed out on the street. So it's not, I've had a lot of experiences on the streets with like boys, Moroccan boys seeing me, recognizing me, and you know, using slurs like faggot. So that was something I calculated before, so I knew that was a part that I was willing to accept that that would be a part of my life if I got the rest with it, like the freedom with it. So, but most of the community was like really like supportive. Like they would be like, I mean, I like. It's funny because even on the streets, I would be like cursed out one moment, but walking past another group of boys and I'd be like, oh my God, are they going to curse me out again? And they would be like, oh, Tofik, when are you going back in politics? La 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 la. So I think I um I how do you say, not sold them short. Like I gave them too little credits in my head. So I think um, I was the political debate about Muslims and how they are homophobic. I think I let it get to me a little too much, and I know that there are a lot of homophobic Muslims, but there are a lot of them that really don't care, or that like they understand that like we're minorities, both like queer people are a minority, Muslim people are a minority as well, and share a lot of the same struggles. So like I was really like pleasantly surprised when it came out.
This is such an intersectional book, right? Intersectional, of
Yeah,
course, means that we're never only one thing, we are many things
totally.
all at once. And on each page, you are being asked to choose this or that. Which do you have more loyalty and allegiance to? And
Yes.
that the continuous refusal of having to choose one over another is taxing. It's
Yes.
terrible. It's also taxing, right? And it says so
Yeah.
much more about kind of where we are as a society that we're not really sure how to let folks not just be who they are, but to really brush up against the heteropatriarchy of the racism of our society. What do we actually do to create spaces for alternative subjecthoods and alternative realities that frustrate our sense of you should be one thing and that one thing should be what I define you to be? No.
This is exactly how it is. The Dutch politicians, like the dominant discourse about migrants is like you have to choose. You're either Moroccan or you're either Dutch.
Right.
So even like if you have two passports, they want you to choose like the Dutch passport. And they want like like there was even like in one of the biggest political parties we have, like the Liberal Party, they referred to an experiment where they wanted, if you watch the soccer game between Morocco and the Netherlands, who are you gonna cheer for? So that's the like the level of loyalty that they ask of you. Same is with my community, the Muslim community. They will be like, it's a sin, and you will have to suppress it, and you have to choose your faith. So you cannot have them both. So um, um, and I think you like I think for a long time I chose loyalty to the Muslim community. So I chose loyalty to my family, and I would be like, if I don't want to lose them, because if I choose the queer part of me, I will lose them, and what will I get in return? Like a gay bar, like what? Like I didn't know what the gay scene was. I didn't know what like concepts like the chosen family were. At that point I didn't know. So now I know you can like, you don't have to have a family by blood. You can create your own family of people that are like-minded. But at that point I was like, when I wrote the book, I was literally saying to myself, if I lose my family, it's their loss. If I lose my Muslim community because of this, it's their loss. It's not my loss. So I will always cherish the Moroccan roots and my Muslim faith, whether the people want me or not. It's a part of me. Like it's so I really like brought it back to myself. Like and I chose for myself. That's what I did. Yeah.
There's so much tension between individualism and what we so-called choose for ourselves, and then the roles that our community places on us, right? You're also hurtling between these two polarities as well throughout
Yeah.
this memoir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people say that I had it easy because like I'm well known in the Netherlands or in the community because of opposing the extreme right. So I was really vocal about racism and Islamophobia at a really early stage before it was like really like more like before it was like now everybody's it seems like everybody wants to be a part of the anti-racism movement. At that point, if you called somebody racist, it would backfire. Like they would be like you're acting like a victim and you're like this, we have the freedom of speech, la 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 la. So a lot of Dutch Moroccans and Muslims respected me because of that. So a lot of people say, well, when you came out, they didn't know how to feel because they liked you, and now you said something that they might not like, so they are conflicted. So if it was an other boy, he would have a much more difficult time than you had, and I think that's partly right.
Mm-hmm. Nick, I'd love to bring you into this as well. What are some of the broader politics of translation that you grappled with in the midst of a project like this, right? You're moving through not only linguistic worlds and cultural worlds, you're also moving through a range of identities that don't fit so neatly into the framework of maybe your life or the context that you're a part of here in Seattle. So what are some of the things that you were bringing into your project here?
That's very true. In thinking about this and, rereading it again after I'm not sure how many times I've read it now. There's something about it that speaks to me on a level that really goes beyond a professional kind of level. So I do have a kind of academic interest and a political interest that I'm bringing to this. There is also something about it which I think has to do with its, you could say, literary qualities. It's such a powerful story. I mean, it's not fictional either, but there's something because part of it, I think, is it's curious to me that Tofik and I happen to be almost identical in age. And my mother emigrated from the Netherlands, first to Canada, then to the United States. I grew up here. I have many Dutch relatives, but for most of my life was not very connected to that. I spoke Dutch as a toddler and then completely forgot it once I started going to school here in the US. And so it's been a process of returning to that in some way. And there's something, I think it does verge on nostalgia at some points where, I hear or read or I hear Tofik speak, and there's something recognizable about some core part of me. And also because it's a coming of age memoir more generally, I can sort of recognize those feelings of uncertainty, and looking for approval in different ways, feeling pressures that you don't understand from the outside. And so that really sort of, it keeps resonating with me. As you suggested, and I wrote about this recently, I'm also, I think because of that very pull of the book, I have to remind myself that in many ways my life is fundamentally different. And, I'm a cishet, white man in the US with all the privileges that come with that. And so I think there is a kind of gap that remains there. And in terms of the politics of translation, I've tried to be mindful of that and not impose myself too much on the story. Actually, our editor, Rebecca, was great about sort of pulling me back a little bit for what I wanted to say in the introduction. And it's, I think I'm so proud of it because I feel like it is something that I can contribute to many different sorts of discourses, also the politics of it in terms of kind of contemporary politics of, quote, multiculturalism, immigration, et cetera. Because it really strikes me also, I know you use this phrase, being outside of the fabric of the norm. It does really, reading the story, it absolutely pulls at my sense of injustice and hypocrisy. There's a great part in the book where Tofik describes talking to an elderly white person on the train, and she says, "So where are you really from? Are you from Turkey or from Morocco?" And he says, "No, I was born Vlissingen." And she says, "You speak Dutch so well." And he's very polite, so he says, "Thank you." But you can't possibly conceive of somebody having that same conversation with the Prime Minister, Mark Rutte. So he writes the same dialogue, like imagining if one were to ask that of Rutte, it's completely absurd, right? Oh, you've done so well for yourself, but you're an exception to the rule. Like, how come everybody else has such a hard time in this country when they're given all of these opportunities?
That conversation is so racialized, right?
Absolutely.
And you show absolutely the hypocrisy of that when you put in a white character in that to say, why is this discourse around us and not others? No?
Yeah.
Right.
There's something.
What type of low expectations do you have? Like, what type of low expectations do you have of us that you constantly like compliment stuff that's like really like basic to me, So that's why I try to like, because it's been said a lot to me that I talk well. So now it's always like you as well. Like, I always give the compliment back, and you always see them like not knowing how to react to that, like, because they know that it's like perfectly normal for them to speak Dutch fluently. So why isn't it for me that was born in the Netherlands? Like, it's like, and it shows like the lens through which they see you. And I see this a lot on the left.
Yeah.
Also on the left, like on the what we in America, the Democratic side. It's like, oh, that's so cute. Oh my God. Oh, that you must be like that a condescending way of complimenting you. Yeah.
There's so many parallels between what you're sharing and I think what many of us who are rooted here in the US can also see with the cultural and racial politics of not just the broader society, but also the left and these last 4 years in particular. And so many of these issues are really coming out, in a very strong way. Nick, as you're talking about the politics of translation, it makes me also think that so much of this collaboration between you and Tofik is a politics of trust. It's a different sort of academic enterprise, right? Usually we are moving through an academic journey on our own in a lot of ways. And so being able to trust one another with a story, a sensitive story in a sensitive retelling across many boundaries takes a lot of courage, I think, on both parts to engage. And it certainly takes a lot of trust and grace to make it happen, no? Tofik, what's it like for you to think about trust, not just to be able to tell your story, but to then be able to trust it to Nick in a particular way, to be able to find and really share the nuance of what you are sharing in the original Dutch?
Yeah, I think it has to do with a lot of things. Like, I don't want to be the one, like, because it's something that's really like happening right now in all of the debates. I don't want to see somebody and think this is a white, straight, cis male. So he will not be able to connect with me. So I know who he is and what his identity is. I know what my identity is, and I know that some things will never, like some things of his life I will never understand, and vice versa. But I don't want to be like part of the like movement that's woke, that goes too far into like excluding somebody based on just the identity part. So I look at other things, and it was obvious from the get-go that he was struck by the story, and um, um, that even though we are different, there is something he connected with, and that made it like that's what I aspire in life. Like that's like I live for connections. Like that's my goal, one of my goals in life, and like it's the only way for us to move forward. It's to see the humanity in each other. So I see the humanity in him, he sees the humanity in me, and we try to bring this story to our brothers and my brothers and sisters, as I call them, and the non-binaries, I have to say. So I think it really was just like like almost a feeling that I just got from him, that I don't get from everybody. Yeah.
I agree. Nick has that. Yeah. Nick has that.
Such a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like a sincere interest. Yeah.
Yeah, right. We invite you to share some questions and comments in the chat. We've got 2 questions that are already here. Please, we would love to hear from you some more. A colleague, one of our participants, says that they would like to hear a little bit more about your play, The Monster of Wokeness, in related to your memoir. How do you see the book and your personal and political experiences in dialogue with the woke identity politics that has recently become popular on parts of the left?
Yeah, so the book, the like the wokeness monster, let's just call it that, is based on my experiences on Twitter, where we see the rise of the social justice warriors, the people that advocate for social justice um, through social media, and like go hard for like anti-capitalist, pro-climate, anti-racist, like just good stuff, like things you shouldn't have to ask. They should be like not like basic human rights, and caring for the planet. So I was really like amazed at how these social justice warriors are like dominant, like growing in numbers and creating like a different debate, very offensive, very with humor, very like um, undeniable. So you can think about the Love is Love movement, the Trans is Beautiful, the Black Lives Matter, all of those. So I wanted to like give insight in what, because social justice warriors is used as a slur, like almost as in a negative way, in a derogatory way. So I was like, what is it? What is it exactly? What is happening right now that these people are like setting the tone, and what are the good parts of it and what are the bad parts of it? Because I also saw stuff that like scared me, and I saw stuff that was like, wow, why wasn't it? Where were they when I was younger? So it's a story about a girl, a social justice warrior, and she has a white friend. They grew up together, and all of a sudden, because of this debate, they kind of like are at odds with each other, because the main character Kautar is a woman of color. The other one is a white woman, and she feels like um, being silent is being complicit. That's how she evolves in her thinking, and she kind of like judges everybody on if they speak out or not. And that's like this, how the story goes. She becomes really famous in the Netherlands, the social justice warriors, Kautar, and we see what happens when you are a woman of color and you get famous for your activism. There's a stuff that happens to you, like a pattern with all of them. So I wanted to highlight that.
There's so many conversations, I think, that we as the left are needing to have about how do you hold hurt in our own communities, not just the hurt that is happening all around us, but what does that hurt look like in our own spirits, and where does justice work reside in that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Audre Lorde's quote, of course, comes to mind, the master's tools cannot dismantle the master's house. And
Yes.
Also a lot of debates around that, right? How do we do justice work? What's the idiom of justice movements?
Yes.
Are there plans for your play to be translated into English? I'm sure some of us are wondering. Another translation question, Nick, somebody is asking, what drew you to translate this as your first translating project? So Tofik, start, and then we'll go to Nick.
It's a book. Yeah, it's a book. It's not a play. I also wrote a play, but this one, the Wokeness Master, is a book.
Okay,
and it might get translated. I don't know. I still I talked to Nick a little bit about it.
Okay.
So yes, like social justice, you have different tactics. Like activists have are also not like there's a lot of diversity within the activist community, so they have different tactics. And what is the tactic that helps the most, that brings change? That's like really interesting debate. And even within the Democratic Party, you see the AOCs, and you see like the old school politicians, and they are having this debate too. But I'll let Nick answer your question.
Yes, I certainly hope we can make that translation happen too. I chose to translate this book, I mean, for some of the personal reasons that I spoke about before, that just on a very personal level, it just absolutely grabbed me, and it's just so well written too. I mean, I would sometimes have to, there's so many great turns of phrase, and it's so poignant and punchy. It is, it's not just a kind of narration of Tofik's coming out and his whole life, but really sort of tells a story too that's incredibly powerful.
Right.
So I think that was the primary motivation. The other one, which I hinted at but didn't say much about before, is my perception, both as somebody who, was starting to spend more time in the Netherlands while I was a grad student, and seeing the way that a lot of these issues are discussed in the media, both the Dutch media and kind of the international media, about what Samuel Huntington famously called the clash of civilizations. And it's this idea that that Western civilization has evolved to this kind of pinnacle, but it has fundamentally different values, which on some level may be incompatible with other, quote, civilizations. And then you see in the media in the Netherlands that it's all of these questions about basically talking about people of color, Dutch Muslims, as if they're just a problem to be solved, and not actual people who are part of the Netherlands. It's a very false dichotomy, in my opinion. But I think that there's a lot of research that's done by sociologists and others which challenges that kind of narrative. But also, this book is something that Tofik doesn't need somebody else to speak for him, right? And so that was something that I could do as a translator, is bring that forward, and in the most direct kind of way that I could.
It's an instance of a very strategic allyship, no? In this kind of broader justice movement that we're talking about, no?
Yeah.
Tofik, one of our participants asks, is it less difficult nowadays for Muslims to be it?
Yes, it is. It's like when I grew up, like I said, like there weren't many that were visible. So nowadays, um, I can count more with like it's still like the fingers of less than two hands, but
Mhm.
there are more stories coming out as well in all kinds of forms, and so that part is definitely like change has changed. The other thing that's like very difficult because after Jinn, a lot of Moroccan boys, Muslim boys, Turkish, they contacted me
Mm.
through Facebook Messenger or through DMs or whatever, email, and it's obvious that this is like something that's really like a big thing still, and almost all of the boys that came out have no contact anymore with their families. So I'm one of the like lucky ones.
Mm.
Um, so we have a long way to go. That's why these stories are important.
Mm.
But there's definitely change.
Mm. This connects to one of the questions that somebody has asked, that on the one hand, right, there is a very slim and narrow space that had been carved out for stories and experiences like yours.
Yeah.
This person is asking, are there any advantages to having this space unprepared when you enter it, to make it your own, to invite others who need to share it with you?
Well, I don't know if I would call it an advantage. Like I will say that if I die tomorrow, like I know this sounds dramatic, but like I feel like I did something. Like this is my proudest work. Like I've done some stuff in my life, and I think this will always be my proudest work because till this day I get messages from boys or girls that read the book and be like, oh my god, I thought I was the only one, or I recognize that part, or okay, so maybe it is possible, or they'll say I'll never come out but this helped me. So it's like it's pushed them a little bit forward, just like in my life I have been pushed forward by other stories.
Right.
So I wouldn't say like advantage in like because people will say like, oh, you will do this for the attention, or they will love you because you're a queer Muslim. No, like I am paying a price for this. Like it's not, I have to always be alert when I'm outside walking on the street.
Yes.
That's like a part of my life.
Yes.
But um, the reward for me is that I impacted somebody's like lives of people that were invisible and that don't get a lot of like attention and love.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Tofik, please do us the honor of reading parts of your book to us. We'd love to hear directly, please.
I'm gonna read like the last part of like the moments I decided to like, okay, this is, I have to publish this book, because while I was writing it, I didn't know if I would really like publish it.
Mm.
So I never feel so strongly Dutch as when I'm in Morocco, and never so completely Moroccan as when I'm in the Netherlands. Not until I was in parliament did I feel so Muslim, and never do I feel so political as when I profess my faith. I never see myself as more of a monster than when I'm sitting with among Moroccans and Muslims, and I never feel so Moroccan and Muslim as when I feel it. Morocco, the Netherlands, my religion, it and they, none have been expelled, nor have they made peace. Not yet. As much as I tried, suppressed, prayed, fled, and wandered, nothing brought salvation. But there is still one thing that I haven't explored. They say that monsters have no reflection in the mirror because a mirror reveals the soul, and monsters are soulless creatures.
Mm.
They say a lot. Monsters are created when people don't allow themselves to have a face and a voice. Mirrors can't reflect what is devoured by self-hate, because that is what it and they were this whole time. Hatred towards myself. I'm going to try to stand in front of a mirror as myself. So I think I came to the conclusion that whatever I was doing, from praying to like uh, chat rooms and dating like on the low, nothing helped and nothing like changed. I didn't find the girl I was gonna marry. Like all of those things didn't happen. So there was just one thing I didn't try. So I was willing to take the risk. to just come out with the book. That's the ending of the book. Yes.
That's a wonderful passage to share with us. There's something, of course, heart-wrenching around you're never so this in this moment, you're never so that in that moment, and the juxtaposition of so many of these positions jostling.
And the constant code, the constant code switching. Yeah, absolutely. Constantly.
Right. Sure, yeah. Are you good to take a couple more questions?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I would love to.
Great. Someone asks, any efforts for a translation in Arabic?
Well, to be honest, when the book came out in 2015, I was like still a bit scared. So because there came like offers to do maybe something with film and maybe something with translations, and I was afraid because my family in Morocco can't read Dutch. So I was very pleased with the fact that the book was really contained within the Netherlands. So that's why I was always hesitant for translating it or doing something else with it. Now I think I have the courage to allow it to travel wherever, also to Morocco, also to my family there. So I don't have any plans, but we're talking about maybe something with film at the moment. And let's just take it one step at a time. Like English is, I think, one of the most, like, you can reach the most people, I think, in English. So I hope that this story ends up where it's supposed to go.
I love that phrasing, right? Story ends up where it's supposed to go. Beautifully said, yeah. Another of our participants is asking, Tofik, can you tell us a little bit about what you admire about the social justice movement and what scares you about it? And I think the way that this person phrased it, it's linking a couple of different comments that I'm seeing people asking and speaking about.
What amazes me is that social media created a place where people that really don't live next to each other or would ever find each other found each other, connected, and that connection made them powerful because I can hear from, like, through social media, you know how many queer Muslims I can find, like more than I ever dreamed of. So together we are stronger than alone. So you have this like kind of energy that comes off of all of those people connecting and being like Black Lives Matter or love is love. So uh, um, uh, people are scared of social justice wars because they know they will like come together and fight for their issue. So that's what really, like, I'm so impressed by the way that they are moving everything forward at the moment, because I was part of the political debate for a long time in the Netherlands and it was stuck. Like the energy was with the right. And I see that is slowly moving towards the social justice movement. And that's something that's really like making me happy. Because they make life better for people like me as well. Like it's they like they make it easier for people that were ignored for a long time. So what scares me is that the social justice warriors can be they're creating a new type of hierarchy, like with uh, um, it has anti-white vibes to it. Like I don't believe in reverse racism, but I see a lot of like um, derogatory comments about white people. So like as if they were like they have to sit and listen and they can't be a part of it. That's not how I look at it. Like I don't see any societal problem as a problem of one group. It's something we all have to deal with. So what scares me is the way that they can be dogmatic and um, uh, um, how can I say this in English? Lose themselves in small shit. Let's just say it like that. Like um, there's a big fight to be fought, and it doesn't help anyone. And you need numbers for that fight. You need a lot of numbers. So don't exclude people because they make a mistake, or they're white, or they said something in like 5 years ago, or they don't have the exact same opinion as you about cultural appropriation or like other stuff. So like make sure that the goal is in sight. Like the goal should be we want social justice, and like and gather as many people as you can for that fight, or else you will lose.
I resonate with so much of what you're sharing. And again, I think these conversations are really tricky to have within the left movement, right? It's one thing to debate the right. It's another thing to look with openness and honesty about the ways that justice work looks different for different folks. And what does that actually mean if we're in conversation with each other, right? Which strategy should we use when and why? That's a question I think a lot about, right?
Yes, me too, a lot.
We have a beautiful appreciation that I'd like to read out loud. There are so many who are still afraid to tell their stories. Thank you for doing so. There is no way to overestimate how significant it is for those who are still tongue-tied, including youth in religious and rural areas of the US. What a service you have done for others. Beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Nick, we've got a question about translation, please. Was this translation most suited for a university press from the start? Did you look for trade presses? Could you briefly share a little bit about that journey?
It was a bit of a challenging process to find a publisher for this. And I did try a few different routes, including some trade presses that focus on especially social justice issues, and as well as academic presses, especially those that do publish books that also are geared towards non-academic public audiences. And it took a while to to find the right place. And when I got the email, positive email back from Rebecca Colesworthy, I literally jumped out of my seat. I was in my office, and it's just the best feeling. And I think SUNY is a wonderful fit for this book. They've done such a wonderful job of promoting it and trying to connect it to different kinds of audiences. And I think it does speak to academic audiences. It's something that I think would be wonderful to teach, and that's something that I plan to do. But it also, as that very nice appreciation you just read suggested, I mean, I think it really is something that can go straight to all kinds of readers too. And so I'm really happy that it has a place where it can reach all kinds of different audiences.
Yes, certainly. Tofik, somebody has said that your quote, "We are children from mixed families. For us, the presence of cultural and religious differences is as self-evident as breathing." In that section, you also talk about what it means to have triple citizenship. Could you share a little bit about what you mean?
Triple citizenship, like my parents are from Morocco. We have double nationality, so that means you get it. Like the country always sees you as a citizen of Morocco, even if I wasn't born there, and I was born in the Netherlands. So I think that means that because I don't know this quote exactly in what context I wrote this. That's why I'm trying to think about how it was.
It's from that manifesto, the 2001 manifesto, I think it's called.
Oh, yes, I was talking about the something that's becoming more visible in the Netherlands, a lot of mixed races, like people that are half Moroccan, half Surinamese, half Polish, half Chinese. So you have like all kinds of new identities that are being formed.
Yeah.
And we don't want those children to have to choose as well. So I was trying to make a point when I was in parliament that um, uh, the reality is like catching up with all those people that are still trying to make, that are trying to wanting us to assimilate and like like throw the rest out of the window that is part of your heritage. So
Yes.
I was like that we are integrating in the bedroom a lot. So that's changing that's like really changing the way Dutch people are seen. Like being white is not synonymous with being a Dutch citizen. Not anymore.
Yes, yes. My sense of political possibility has been pretty battered the last few years. And to think that politics also has space for people like you gives me such a renewed sense of hope and, really thinking through strategically, right? What kind of work
Yeah.
is needed where, at which moment, and why.
Yes.
You don't have to be a member of parliament forever to do your work, but at that particular point that you were there, that was a really integral time for you to be in the mix of those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there was, I mean, I don't want to like be like, oh, but there just wasn't somebody from my generation with my identity like speaking up in the debate. So I think a lot of like, it was something that was like, it was a group that was talked about the most, and the only people that were speaking up for that group were like the older generation that all that have a different mentality. Like my parents were really thankful, and they would be like, you have to be thankful, 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 thankful that you are here. I was like, no, we are either everybody is thankful, so white and people of color, or nobody's thankful. Like you cannot like um demand that from me. Like I feel thankful, to be honest, but not because somebody wants that.
Right.
So their mentality was not the mentality of the younger generation that was like, I was born here. I don't want to have to ask to get into a club or to get a job or to get like an equal, like, that's not something I should have to ask for, like, or beg for. So I think that was important to have that voice in parliament.
Right. Well, what a joy to have your voice as part of the launch today. Thank you so much, Tofik. I'm so delighted.
Thank you, Anu, for this conversation.
Yeah, what a delight to.
And the care you put in it.
You.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Nick?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We are all very thankful. No, I'm really like, don't know what to say. Like you really did this with a lot of care and a lot of like love. I don't know. It's like I feel very seen and heard and respected and loved. And I feel like I did something. Like you want in your life at least one moment to be like, okay, this wasn't for myself. I did something for other people. So this really is that for me. So I'm really, really happy that this book is in the US now. It's crazy.
It feels that way to me too. Absolutely.
How fortuitous for all of us. I hope it gets a lot of wide press and read by lots of folks. Tofik, yeah, definitely. Yes. Thank you for the care that you bring to your story and being able to find connections with our stories, right?
Yes.
That's why I think we're relating to you so beautifully, right? Because you open yourself up in a way that allows us in. You allow us the grace to participate with you in that way. Thank you.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Nick, were you going to say anything else?
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, good. Well, I'll say just the very last words, which really are not the most apt ones, because these three, Tofik, Nick, and Anu, have said things so eloquently and well, and many of you with the questions also have been part of that spirit and articulate beauty of what's gone on here. My part of this, besides thanking everyone, most heartily, is to say that now we also get the pleasure of literally getting to put this book in people's hands. And I say that we at Elliott Bay, but that can speak, I think, as the way things can move and go to other bookstores here in the US, and to all the other ways that things move from conversations such as this and all. So Tofik, we look forward to reading more of what you have written, and we look forward to you coming over here, as many of us want to go to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I have family over there too. Anu, at this kind of thing, you are the best. I just have to say, having been with many of these kind of programs, you're just great, generous, and attentive, and everything Tofik said was true. So for all of us, again at Elliott Bay, thank you, and a good evening to Tofik and everyone else who's on that side. I guess it's curfew there too as well, so I guess no one gets to go out. But
No.
yeah. So let's hope we get through this part of things too, safely and healthily and in the appropriate ways too. So take care, everyone. Thank you again, and be well.
Thank you very much for the hospitality. Thank you very much.
Perfect.